You're listening to Well Met, a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 25 of Well Met. We're a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com. I'm John, I push the buttons every week, and with me I have an awesome crew of Hearthstone aficionados. First up, all the way from Saskatoon, Canada, dancing to the music, it is Kevin Hovdestad. Hey Kevin.
How's it going, John?
Super good. I didn't tell Kevin that I moved the splash screen in, so the whole chat room just caught us dancing. So
I told you guys last week.
If you buy us drinks at BlizzCon, there will be plenty more where that came from. So, absolutely. Also from Kansas City, wearing his Kansas City Royals hat and a new Hearthstone. Is that the new Hearthstone shirt?
Nah, it's one from last year.
Oh, got it. So it's JR Cook. Hey, JR.
Hey, John. So yeah, I speaking of the Royals, I was talking about this. Did get my postseason ticket secured this week. So
cool. Congrats.
Hopefully, if they go to Game 7 of the World Series this year, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they win first of all before that, because Game 7 of the World Series lands on the same day that I fly out to BlizzCon.
Got it.
That'll be tough.
I will continue to not cheer for the Royals. You got that promise from me.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, boys. Well, it's been a crazy week, wild west over in Hearthstone. So let's go ahead and talk about how our weeks went on the ladder. Gerald, let's start with you. How'd you do, man?
I played the ladder for one day, and that was yesterday. And I started out at rank 15, and I went on a huge win streak. I went like 16-0 at one point, and right now I'm at rank 7.
Dude, so one day is all you need. That's all you need.
One day.
Wow.
So I've been playing mid-range hunter with Ram Wrangler, which I'm still trying to decide is a pretty good card or not. He's given me King Crush a couple times, so he stays in my deck because of that. He hasn't been too bad.
Nice.
Also playing with there's another one, the King Zealot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that one's been pretty good too to help me get some Savannah high mains and things like that. But it hasn't been. I don't know. Jousting just hasn't been as consistent as I would like it to be. So
absolutely, I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Kev, how'd you do this week, man?
Not good. I mean, I didn't play a ton. We were talking about it a little bit in the pre-show, but I just got really frustrated. I tried a bunch of different decks trying to see what would work, trying to experiment with some new things. I ran kind of an aggressive priest deck, Dragon Priests, mid-range Paladin, the Secret Paladin that has been super popular with a couple of different other things, and just nothing stuck. Wasn't a ton of fun. Like, I just felt like every game was decided by one very particular turn, right? If somebody was able to get a 5 secret slap down on turn 6 with Paladin, that was the end of that game. And I know it's not actually that way, but a lot of them felt that way. I hit a lot of mirror matches. I hit a lot of hard counters. So I'm sitting at rank 5 right now, trying to make Jab's Druid list work. It's a good list, and I feel like it's the sort of best I've had in terms of results since Grand Tournament dropped. So I'll probably stick with that and see if I can't finish a little higher than 5. What about you, John?
I did pretty good. Honestly, most of my Hearthstone time ended up being computer building time. I had to sink 3 days, probably about 10 hours total, reloading drivers and pulling apart computers and making trips. So I didn't get to play a lot. I got to stream one night, though, on my new rig, which was awesome. I had a lot of fun. We had almost like 25 people hanging out, which is the most I've ever had in a stream at once. So that was really fun. And we ran some of the new aggro paladin, a list that I got from just Cyan and Vangswisher. Got to sit with them in a Skype call and got to spectate them running it, and then gave me the list. So that was really fun. and then played a little bit of Amnesia's Ramp Druid, which was also really fun, really cool. Runs a couple, all the 6 ramp cards, then runs Yetis and a bunch of strong 4s, and that was really fun to play too. Sitting up 4 stars on 7 right now, and I think I played maybe 15 games this week. So overall, felt really good, and it was a lot of fun. So
Not bad.
yeah, not too bad at all. Well,
Yeah. I had one thing I wanted to just add real quick before I forget, and I wanted to say it now before the shoutouts. I'm actually heading out to Atlanta, this week for Dragon Con out in Atlanta, and I've had a couple people message me because they heard me mention it last week. And if you want to meet up or anything at Dragon Con, just let me know. Tweet at me at Eldorian. There's going to be a fireside gathering there on Friday night during Dragon Con. It's during I think they call it like the Dark Moon. It's not the Dark Moon Fair. They call it like the Dark Moon Tavern or something like that this year. But I plan on being there for that. So if you want to play some Hearthstone this week and you're going to be at Dragon Con, come by on Friday to the Dark Moon Tavern, play some Hearthstone with me.
cool. Definitely. And let's get to the big news now then, I guess. So as everyone knows, we have JR gone this week, and while he will be here in spirit and in our hearts, he will not be physically here next week. So, searching far and wide, I think we found the perfect co-host. And so we actually have Jocelyn Moffat coming from The Angry Chicken next week. And so she'll be on the show. She'll be hanging out with us live and doing all the stuff. So we're really excited to get Jocelyn here. She's been awesome. We talked quite a bit back and forth on Twitter and things like that. So really excited to get her on the show. Obviously, she's awesome on The Angry Chicken, and so we're really excited to have her here with us. So, yeah, I wish I had the little bumper. Hype! But I don't have that, so cool. Anyways, she will be with us next week, so make sure to stay tuned.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to having her here just to sort of see what someone else's input looks like on all the stuff that we talk about every week as is, especially somebody with so much experience in the Hearthstone scene, the podcast scene. Like, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I could be here for it, but
True.
I felt the same way when you guys had God, I just forgot his name. Tan and Grace here. Yeah, the same thing. I watched the show afterwards and was like, man, I wish I'd been there.
We've had some really good guests on our show so far. We're only 25 episodes in, so only more awesome co-hosts to come. Sweet. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the news.
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
All right, you've got about 1 to 2 days left of this month's Well-Met podcasts are brought to you by Fade to Karma. Actually, they've been doing some awesome work over at fadetokarma.com, weekly deck posts at blizzpro.com, things like that. And if you become a Well-Met Patreon in the month of August, you will be put into a $5 or more. You'll be put into a raffle to get an hour of free coaching with a Fade to Karma member. So if you have any interest in that, you like the show, want to support it, well, double whammy. You can get 2 for 1. So go ahead, sign up at wellmet.com or patreon.com/wellmetpodcast, and we'll go ahead and be doing the drawing here later this week.
And just so people know, right now, if you were to go and support that as you're listening to this, you would have about a 6% chance of being the winner. So there's a really strong chance that somebody can go and support the show and get that opportunity. The guys kept telling me that I'm not allowed to, but I could really use that coaching. So I'm,
just because you could use it doesn't mean you're not allowed to. Or just because you could use it doesn't mean you're allowed to. So
yeah. I need it bad.
yeah, you do.
That's true. I'll coach you.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. It'll be even free coaching from me. So definitely check out fadetokarma.com. They've been awesome. Let's jump in, though, to some of the big news. First and foremost, the Grand Tournament launched this week, in case you guys did not know.
Really?
Yeah, we did. JR, you want to kind of give us a rundown of some of the highlights?
Sure. So the Grand Tournament launched this week, guys.
Woo! Great job.
Woo! I mean, what more is it? It's like new cards, 132 cards. That's pretty awesome. You know, the new. I mean, it's stuff we've been talking about for the last month now. Really, right?
Yes, we have been talking about it a lot. But
So
there are some interesting things though from this last week that have been pretty insane. On Monday and Tuesday, Hearthstone was the #1 most watched game on Twitch, which is pretty huge, averaging like 70 to 80,000 at the low points,
yeah.
all the way up into the low to mid 100,000 viewers in the high points.
And we like what was it? It launched on Monday, so we streamed all of our card stuff. It was card openings. And that was, man, I still feel bad after that night because you guys peer pressured me into some shenanigans.
Yes, we did. Yes,
I
we
mean,
did.
to be fair, I don't remember much from the pack opening.
Color me shocked. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a lot of fun, though. I'm glad people came and tuned in for that. It was a lot of fun.
Do you guys remember how many we opened? Like, it was over 400 packs.
Yeah, we cleared just a hair over 400. It was about 410 between the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys still, even though I opened up the most packs out of all of you guys still opened up more legendaries than I did.
But do we have golden variant rins?
We do not.
You do not.
We
I
do not. You do.
Because
So,
you guys talked me into it.
you crafted it though, didn't you?
Yeah.
We did. We watched it happen.
We're going to talk a little bit more later in the show about the different packs that we opened up because we got some pretty cool highlights from that. I almost wanted to grab some audio from it, but
Nope.
it was you got to come hang out for those streams because it was pretty crazy. Yeah, we did stream that, which is really fun. And then I believe we have some more info here about the BlizzCon EU finals in Prague, don't we, Kev?
We do, yeah. So the American finals are scheduled. I don't think they've taken place yet. But the BlizzCon EU finals now have been set for October 3rd and 4th in Prague. The first wave of tickets sold out basically instantly. There's really what we were told is under a minute, but there's really they were gone the moment they were online. There's going to be Overwatch playable live at the event, which is cool for anybody who hasn't had that opportunity at BlizzCon or PAX already. And they're going to give away Illidan and the Shando Illidan skin in Heroes of the Storm to attendees. So that's pretty awesome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That's also going to be the first place that people can get the Power Core card back, which is the new esports themed card back that they announced on the Hearthstone blog a couple of weeks ago. So that's a huge opportunity for anybody who's over in the Czech Republic or nearby.
Have you guys seen, I think we talked about it a little bit, but I don't think I've got your full reactions. Do you guys like the Power Chord card back?
Oh,
Go for it,
okay,
Jay.
great.
I think, I want it. I just would like to know how I can, effectively be able to get it.
Do you think they'll have it at BlizzCon?
I don't think they will because they'll have their own card back for people who attend BlizzCon.
There'll be a BlizzCon. I mean, they could do two, I guess, right? Traditionally, BlizzCon has gotten its own, and it would get one that would be available to attendees as well as to people who buy the virtual ticket. They could also make the Power Core card back available there. By that logic, though, they could also make the Dollar on Flame card back.
Which I hope they do.
And I would love that. I would love
Yes.
that. But, I mean, the odds that you could get all of those things just at BlizzCon seems we like that and we hope for that, but realistically, I'm not counting on it.
Which one do you guys like better? Because I feel like the Tespa card back and the Power Chord card back are like the same level of rarity. So if you were given the choice, one in each hand, which one would you pick, JR?
Tespa, just because I think it is one of the best looking card backs in the game, and I can't have it.
True.
And the only way you can previously get it was by being in college and joining their chapter, and that's the only way to get it now, except for that one event where they had it available. And I'm hoping they do that a little bit more because I would love to get my hands on that one.
Totally. What about you, Kev?
I mean, I haven't seen the Power Core card back in game, right? And that's sort of a variable because I've grown to really like the Tespa one. So right now, my gut would be to say I would love to have the Dollar on Flame one, but you would have to see it, right? There's so many nice card backs, and we've sort of established, right, that along with trying to complete the card collection itself, we've all sort of started trying to complete the card back collection, and it's one of the very few I don't have and want very badly. So
Right. Sure. For one, I want the golden Chinese card back for myself personally. That's the one that I want more than anything else in the world. Tespa's second. So
I'm
I feel
surprised
like-
they even show that as something that we can get. Like, I'm surprised that the ability to have that on a North American server even exists.
maybe someday we'll get the opportunity to get it. Maybe
When you go pro, yeah.
when I go pro, I will. Next month actually is when I'm going pro. So
Good.
cool. So that's kind of the major news this week. Is there anything else we're missing? Nope, we're not. All right,
No,
good.
I mean, as a reminder, this is the end of the BlizzCon qualifying period. End of August is when that ends. So by the time you guys are listening to this recorded, as opposed to live, that's it. Like, this month's point scores end that period, and we'll start seeing who is qualifying for BlizzCon. That's how we're getting this EU finals event. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, totally.
There's some of that new gear that's on the gear.blizzard.com store. They had a couple new T-shirts. They had a box of journal box that looked like the Hearthstone box, and my favorite was the key art for Hearthstone, the wall hanging that they had, the canvas wall art.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I'll after I get back from Dragon Con, I'm thinking about ordering that.
Nice.
And hopefully next week or a week after, I'll have a code to share so you can save a little bit of money if you purchase some of that stuff. So
I totally talked my sister into buying me the Heroes of the Storm wall art as a early Christmas gift. So I've got the Heart of the Swarm one up on the wall behind me here that I got from a friend at Blizzard, which I don't think they're selling. I think those are done. But the the Heroes of the Storm one I'm going to put up, I think, right behind it, right on the wall here. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm super stoked for that.
Katie ordered the scarf right away. Totally her. She's like, it's nerdy, but nobody really knows. And it's like, come
You can
on.
hide it.
You can hide it, right? So cool. All right, well, let's do the famous tournament rundown here. I got to stretch a little bit because we didn't have a whole lot, but this is a fast one. So we had Phase 2 finish up this last week in ATLC. Now we had, we basically broke it down all the way to the top two to go through the finals. In week 1 of Phase 2, we had, this week, we had Tempest Storm defeat Team Archon 6-5, and Nihilum defeat Force and Boys 6-5 as well. And then in the winner bracket, Tempest Storm crushed Nihilum 6-1, which I was really sad about. That was one of the biggest slaughters I had ever seen in my life. To be fair, the draws were horrible, but yeah, it felt awful. In the losers bracket, Force and Boys eliminated Team Archon, so they are out 6-5. But then Nihilum came back and beat Force and Boys 6-3, knocking them out. So the final 4 teams going to final phase in Texas is Value Town, Cloud9, Tempo Storm, and Nihilum. So really exciting stuff coming up. And I don't have the exact dates on those yet, but stay tuned because the finals are going to be awesome. $250,000 is at stake. And yeah, so cool.
I feel like those were the 4 teams that we sort of predicted early on when this started. At least because I do believe, well, I think Team Archon was in there as one of them, but I do believe we had Value Town, Tempo Storm, and Nihilum.
Yep, I think so. That
Yeah,
sounds
no
right.
big surprises there. Although, yeah, I'm sad to see Archon out, obviously, because I was kind of rooting for them going in. But at this point, I think I'm 100% watching to see if Value Town can close it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about this big news though too. Zixo is actually leaving Archon. It just came out like today. Zixo released a statement. We don't even have the official Archon statement yet, so we don't know the exact reasons why. But Zixo, who's really done quite well, especially in the Asia Pacific servers over in South Korea and things like that, he's been playing a lot for Archon and has been doing really well. He is no longer going to be with Team Archon, so kind of sad to see him go.
Wasn't he talking to someone that was on stream at PAX when that news kind of broke out? Like he was telling them that he's no longer on the team, and like Kibler, I think Kibler was there and some other players, and he was just like, and just the faces of just awkwardness of, oh, did you guys see that?
I haven't seen it. I didn't know that that's what it came from. I thought it came from, I don't know. I saw it first from Gosu Gamers.
No, I saw the video feed first when he was chatting about it, and
Interesting.
and then the picture of just their reactions of the people there at PAX of just, because he was talking to, I don't remember who it was from the team, telling them that he wasn't on it anymore, and they're just like, oh, this is awkward, and then and then I think they announced it the next day.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy to see. He's always been kind of a great player. There was some really big controversy about when he wasn't doing very well in physical health. He was sick for a little bit, couldn't make some tournaments. I guess some pro players were flipping coins in some tournaments for games that really didn't matter. So it was just kind of like a 50-50 anyway because he wasn't feeling well. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. We don't like to speculate here on Well Met, but just know that the Team Archon got Zixo for sure, and I think that Purple too, but I can't remember if that was just rumor or not. So don't quote me on it. It actually is official. Good old Captain Crunch in the chat room. Got it. So Zixo and Purple are both leaving Archon. So there you go. Done and done.
I feel like Team Archon has a lot of turnover. I don't know. Like I'm.
Do they though? Isn't that the first people who've left?
No. This is a pretty common thing though, right? Like esports in general goes through this a lot, where people leave teams because there's personal issues or they want to try new things. People leave teams to move different regions. Like there's all these different things that kind of cause that to inevitably happen. And it's worth pointing out that in Hearthstone, that's outside of ATLC, not exactly a huge thing. Like Zixo's a great player. He popularized a ton of the really like successful zoo and aggro decks, constantly just like crushes the race to legend at the start of every month. Was the first person to hit rank 1, I think, on all 3 regional ladders simultaneously. He's going to be just fine because having a team is not super significant in a one-player sport.
You think so? You really think so?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it doesn't, team or no team doesn't affect his ability to stream, his ability to attend tournaments, his ability to travel. Like, it's a nicety, and it's certainly probably a peace of mind thing for the player, but it's not the end of his career or anything not to be on a team.
Oh, totally. I completely agree with that, but I really like the team dynamic, especially with things like ATLC. I do think that being on a team is going to become more important as things go on. You can still make a lot of money and still win a lot of games, but even having that dedicated core practice group that you work with tightly and even live in the same house has to be really nice.
There's a lot of pretty well-known, though, like high-level practice groups. Like we talked, and this is quite a while ago on the show, about Phone Tap's practice group, right? The Under the Radar group. It was just a whole bunch of pros who had no other affiliation. They're on a ton of different teams, signed by a ton of different sponsors, and they all got together and just said, like, we need high-level practice. We need a chance to sort of test decks against people who can play at this level and not run them on ladder. I think those opportunities exist regardless of the team atmosphere. It 100% is like a good thing for a professional competitor to have teams and sponsors and that backing, absolutely. But like, I don't see it having a material impact on Zixo as a player. I would be shocked if another team didn't pick him up too, right? Like,
oh, totally.
He's going to be fine.
I think he wants to do more stuff in the Asia Pacific scene where he seems to be doing really well and playing a lot. Like he played a month straight, just all Asia Pacific and Korean tournaments and things like that.
Korea, wasn't he?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Cool. So, yeah. Well, boys, should we go and talk about some grand tournament stuff? I think we should.
Yeah.
All right.
What? Is that a duck?
That was a duck.
Okay. Why are there ducks?
Why is there a horse and a whip crack? Because this is a radio show. Kind of. So, all right. So let's go ahead. We had a big week, obviously, with the grand tournament. There was actually some really cool stuff that came out of, I believe, Hearthstone and Hearthsim. Kev, do you want to go ahead and break that down for us?
Yeah, so going into the launch of TGT, a whole bunch of different places were trying to collect data on card opening because we've obviously had lots of math done and people have contributed stuff over the years, but it was kind of like a one-time opportunity to just grab a whole bunch of information all at once and really get some digestible numbers out of it. So they collected data from people who contributed a total of 14,825 pack openings, which is a lot. That is 100% like statistically significant at this point. Now, there's going to be like maybe small biases, and I don't know exactly how the information was collected. I'm hoping that it was done using some kind of tool so people couldn't like fudge their own data or anything. I'm assuming that's how it was done, but I didn't go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But the gist of it is that of the cards, 70% were common, 21% were rare, 4% were epic, and 1% were legendary, which lines up with kind of the logic we've come to expect over the years. And then within those, 2% of common cards were gold, 5% of rare cards were gold, 5% of epic cards were gold, and a surprising 8% of legendary cards were gold. So that's, I think those numbers are maybe a little skewed, and I don't know if that's intentional on Blizzard's part. Like maybe they're trying to get more gold cards out there because it helps people build their dust collection. I know that's kind of the logic behind ranked rewards, so maybe, but what did you guys think? Like, is that kind of line up with your expectations?
I think it seems pretty close to what we were seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just about right on what we were talking about. I mean, even you and I, Kev, we opened up 110 packs, right?
Yep.
And how many legendaries do we pick up?
I pulled 10, and I think
10.
you pulled 9.
Yeah, so
Memory serves.
doesn't that line up?
Or
do we just
it's
get
a little high? Like
That's high.
we,
Yeah.
that
yeah,
is
say-
high. That's 10% or
No,
8%.
because it's 5 cards a pack, right? So it's like
Right,
2%. So
yeah,
you're double. Like you're an outlier
Yeah,
statistically.
you're right. We're
but
500. Yeah, so out of like 500 packs or
Yeah.
500 cards.
You would have
10 of
expected there to be
them.
5 that were legendary.
But then if you include what I drew, and I
Yeah,
was
you balance
lower
us
than
out a
the
little bit.
norm, then it evened out.
Yeah, across 2,000 cards amongst the 3 of us, we opened what, like 19, and how many did you get, JR? 5, 6,
I think I got 7.
7?
Total.
So 20, 25, 26-ish across the 3 of us across 2,000 cards. That's closer to inline.
Right.
Still technically actually a little high, if anything.
RNG favors us. What can we say? Except JR. RNG
Except
does not favor
RNG
JR
was not
in
his
the
friend that
slightest.
night.
Oh, that was so funny.
I
So-
only win when it matters, and that's when I bet you.
I still call foul, sir. I still call foul. Well, let's talk about what you guys pulled. Kev, did you pull anything notable out of your packs that you're really excited about?
I mean, yeah, when we were done, on top of having pulled 10 legendaries, which included, I got both Ram Shield.
Bless
I
you.
got-
Bless
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
I got both Ram Shield. I got, what else was interesting that I was excited about? Idis Darkbane, a gold Idis Darkbane.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I'm trying to think which ones I opened versus crafted. Because when we were done, I turned around and blew. I had just over 10,000 dust, and I crafted a ton. So I have just about every playable legendary
Oh.
from the new set.
Nice.
I don't even remember what I opened. I remember I got an Idis Darkbane, and then I think I got a Chillmaw.
You got like the worst legendaries. You got like one
then-
or two.
And then everything else was just junk that I didn't care about.
Hmm.
So, but I
So-
crafted a golden variant Rin.
You did. Yeah, what else did I get? Oh, I got Gormok, which was really awesome. Justicar Trueheart, which I really wanted.
Yeah, I did get Justicar Trueheart.
Yeah, which is super good. Yeah, most of the ones I was intending on playing, I think I turned around and immediately crafted Varian because I wanted him and didn't get him. he was the only one that really like stood out that was absent in my set.
Yeah. I filled out actually all the cards I wanted before I even had to craft anything. And on top of that, I got a golden Justicar True Heart, which is cool because then I get all the golden hero powers. So,
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
pretty excited about that. Feel really good overall. I had some good pulls that night. And we made a nice little drinking game about it, and we drank a lot. So, probably won't get to do that again for a while. Katie was not very happy with me.
She was sitting behind you on stream, like looking down at her phone, just like,
Yep, so
funny.
embarrassed. So embarrassed. She goes, "My boyfriend does this in front of people
in front of people. Yeah.
for entertainment, apparently." So yeah, overall good polls. But I think this is a kind of a great lead into what we should be crafting going into the first couple weeks now. So JR, tell us a little bit about this article that you wrote.
Yeah, so whenever there's a new set, I did this for Classic Hearthstone. I did it for when Goblins versus Gnomes came out, and I do it because people are always asking, "What legendary should I craft?" I have enough dust, so what legendary card should I craft? So I kind of order the top 5, and I'm like, okay, these are. If you were to craft a legendary today, this is like the number 1 card that I think you should craft. And normally, I messed up in GVG because I had Vol'jin first and I had Dr. Boom as number 2. Dr. Boom should have been number 1. And that taught me a lesson that you need to put your neutral legendaries, rank them higher than your class legendaries. And the reason for that is because your neutral legendaries can go in multiple decks, and they're not class specific. If there's a class you really want to play and a deck that you really want to play that needs a class card, then obviously you are going to want to end up ranking one of those class cards ahead of your neutral. So yeah, the list I put a list together for the grand tournament. So if you go to hearthstone.blitzpro.com and you look at what grand tournament legendary should I craft, I have the top 5 lists there, and I think we're going to go over it here, aren't we?
We sure are. But I will go ahead and let you lead us into this first one.
So
Number 5 or whatever, I guess. Or no, this is number 1, right? Yeah, number 1. We'll start with number 1, unless you want to go the other way.
Which one do you have up? Because I can't see.
I can do them both. I haven't put any of them up yet.
Oh. Hey, you want to go in backwards order, 5 through 1?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so number 5, I had as... this was the only class legendary that I put in because I feel that he is the best legendary in the game, but he's not number 1 because he is the warrior legendary, Varian Rin. And I put him up there just because of the value that you get from him. Not only is he a big body that you put out, but he has the ability to draw 3 cards. And if those happen to be minion cards, they go into play. So imagine this scenario where you have Varian Rin, and then you draw into Ragnaros and Ysera, and then you draw a spell card or something like that. Now you have... You basically won the game at that point, unless you were losing the game completely, and you know the next turn your opponent was going to win. If you play this when your opponent was going to win next turn, this probably isn't a good card to play because you can't really do anything that turn. So I have him at number 5. What do you guys think about Varian Rin in number 5? Do you agree with him there, or would you rather have something else? Anybody?
He's looking at you, John.
Dang it! All right, I'll go ahead and take the first one. I think that if there is going to be a legendary class card in that top 5, I think Varian's the one. I think it's a really strong card, and personally, I think you make really good arguments for it. I think there's good arguments for a couple of other ones. Mainly, I would say I really like Mistcaller, and I really like Aviana. But again, those are both class cards, and also in weaker classes overall. Although Druid, I don't know, that's debatable. So overall, I kind of like that. Kev, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the logic holds, right? People have asked every expansion, what do I craft? And I've always said start with the neutrals because they're the things that have the most application in terms of being able to play them in multiple decks, multiple archetypes. So out of the 20 legendaries that were introduced in the grand tournament, there's 9 class legendaries, 11 neutrals. Some of the neutrals suck. I would say Varian is absolutely the strongest class legendary on its face. I mean, I think there's a lot of things about the emerging meta that may alter that a little bit. We may see some things shift and change because a lot of the other class legendaries lead into maybe deck concepts we're not 100% ironing out just yet because new cards are always kind of slow to work their way into existing decks. That spot could very well be displaced by Mistcaller or Ronin, which both look very playable in certain deck types. It could even be displaced by Aviana down the road. We don't really know. But I would say at this point, with what we know about the card set and what we've seen on the ladder, yeah, like Varian is absolutely the best class card.
Absolutely. Would you have
Yeah,
for
I
number
think-
4? Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing with Varian, though, is it's going to change Control Warrior a little bit because the one thing you got to remember is when he plays his the cards from your deck and they're played, their battle cries do not go off. Control Warrior does have a lot of cards that have battle cry on them that are very good. So that's why I was saying, like, you might see Control Warrior playing more Ragnaros and Ysera rather than possibly Alexstrasza or some of these battle cry cards that have the effect that when they go into play, they're going to do something that turn.
I honestly don't think you will. I mean, I think the things like Alexstrasza are so important to the like anti-face hunter or other particular matchups for Warrior. I think honestly, you just play them knowing that if you draw into them with Varian, you change how you play a little bit. But Varian is by himself an all-new win condition. I don't think it changes it all that much. Like you wouldn't want to suddenly be running a bunch of cards that just have immediate board impact effects rather than battle cries. Like the deck still plays very much the same way. It's just like when I was going through my Control Warrior list trying to cut something to make room for adding Varian, the only thing I could get rid of that made sense was a Sludge Belcher. It was the only like flex slot I could find where I was like, I don't need that card to play this deck.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it. I'd put that at number 5 for sure. I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I approve.
So number 4, I had Chilma. And Chilma, I had him up here. He's the the rest of these 4 are all going to be legendary neutrals. And Chilma I added because Blackrock Mountain brought the Dragon Synergy. And we didn't feel that it really worked well yet because there still wasn't enough dragons for that synergy. And Chilma is one of those cards that is going to help with that. And I think we've already seen it with Dragon Priest decks, in fact, with the addition of a couple other dragons that were in TGT. The great thing about Chilma, too, is that, yeah, he's a 7-drop, 6/6, but he gets Taunt, and then he has basically almost a board-clearing Death Rattle if you have a dragon in your hand. I think he can fit in Dragon Control Warrior, Dragon Priest. If Dragon Paladin ever ends up being a thing, and various others, he's also could potentially be effective against Grim Patron Warrior. Maybe.
Sure.
So, what do you think about this one, Kevin?
I mean, I like it because it's a dragon, and I like it because it's a taunt on 7 for a non-druid class. I don't actually think it's going to be a patron killer or quite the same like strength level that we maybe had hoped. I played a lot of Dragon Priest to mess around with it and kind of see, and as often as not, because of how late in the game you drop it and how desperate you are to sort of crank out your early dragons, you often don't have an activator left for it because you're kind of holding it to the bitter end. And it's vulnerable to just enough removal at 6 health for something that you're going to play on turn 7 that you kind of have to like it dodges BGH, but it doesn't dodge like Fireball and a lot of other stuff. I don't know. I'm on the fence.
Death.
Yeah, Shadow Word Death kills it. I'm on the fence because I think ultimately it's the kind of card that it doesn't really actually do enough to stop people or change the state of the game, and it also presents a huge risk to you on your side of the board if you do have an activator. So as like when I played with it, I often intentionally played it without an activator, and the best benefit you get out of that is like mind gaming your opponent a little bit, I guess. But it's a good card because it's a dragon, because it has taunt. I don't think it's inherently going to be super strong outside of the classes that can take real advantage of like specific dragon synergy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. People don't want to hear me talk about this one, but all I'll say is this reminds me a little bit of like Black Knight in the sense where this seems like more of a reactionary card than an actionary card. Great in aggro metas and things like that, but in control stuff, this could get removed easily, and is just kind of a little hard to keep there. But I think just like we've seen Black Knight, right? When it's in meta, and it does work. But yeah, overall, I still like it. I think when you're looking at these neutral legendaries, I think that there are 3 better ones. So I think that would deserve its spot at number 4 if I did my math right. So
Yeah, so speaking of number 3, I had Justicar Trueheart, which was one of I think the first, if not one of the first, legendary cards that we saw revealed for the Grand Tournament. And she's a 6/3 in the 6 spot, and a lot of people I think didn't give her a lot of credit because of that, because they felt that the 6 spot had a lot of competition already, and being a 6/3 body, like she dies to basically a 2-drop. But the power of Justicar Trueheart is the fact that the battle cry changes the game for you the rest of the game. It makes your hero power better. And for certain classes, that is huge. For some classes, she's not going to work out that great. But Warrior, 4 armor every turn. Priest, 4 health every turn. Hunter doing an extra damage every turn. Possibly even Warlock not taking... In fact, Warlock might be one of the weaker ones, but not taking damage to draw your card. You get that for the rest of the game, and there's no way to silence that effect. There's no way that your opponent can take that effect away from you. And because of that, she's a very strong legendary because she changes the game for the rest of that game. What do you think about this, John?
I gotta agree. I vastly underestimated this card, at least in the first week. I did not expect to see this punish me so bad, especially with Warrior. I wasn't a huge fan of it for Warrior. And Warrior, I can think of 2 games specifically where I lost simply because of that 4 armor every turn for 2. We were basically in a top deck war, and I was even beating him on top decks, but I couldn't get enough damage out, and he fatigued me. Most frustrating game I think I played this last week. And so I think it's an incredible card. I think we definitely did not, I did not personally set it up right in the sense where I don't think I got a good grasp on this card overall. What about you, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew that it was going to be good, and I always just sort of dismissed people who are like, oh, it's going to be super easy to remove. You can get rid of it with a 2-mana spell. Like, well, yes, you can, but the point of the card is that if you could get this effect any other way, if you could just hit the board and have that effect without a body, you would still cast that spell. You would still do that thing, whatever it sort of takes to make that change occur. I've seen people pulling all sorts of crazy plays with this thing, even stuff as impressive or mandatory in some ways as being able to, if you've got an Inspire card on the board, use your hero power, throw down Justicar, use your hero power again, because it resets it the same way as using Shadow Form or any of the other things that adjust your hero power in any other way. It's doing a ton of work in Paladin right now. I think in Warrior it was always going to be super powerful. I can see the application in Priest, but I don't think we've actually seen it played that way yet. Also liable to be super good in Druid long term, I think. In like a Savage Combatant style Druid, I could see it having a lot of potential. There are just classes that were losers with this card, right? You're not going to use it, I don't think, in things like Warlock or Shaman. Like, it just doesn't add enough to your hero power or like affect your tempo enough to be viable the same way, I don't think. But on the ones where it really adds a ton, like I'm blown away by how hard it is to deal with 2/1/1 minions every turn in the late game against Paladin. I did not think that was going to be a problem the way that it is.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. So number 2, and this one is one that I'm not sure if I should have had it number 2, if I should have had lower, or even higher, because I haven't really seen her played a lot, and that's Idas Darkbane. She is, in my opinion, the best 3-drop legendary card in the game. Probably, other than her sister, I believe, are the only 2. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember off the top of my head, though. But the reason why I have her so high is the fact that with certain classes, you can target her, and then she becomes basically a better knife juggler, in a way. A way bigger knife juggler. And whenever you can... And I make this statement here with the number 1 card coming up, but whenever you can get board control while also clearing their board and getting rid of their board control is a huge, huge upswing. And I believe Idas Darkbane helps with that. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, first off, minor thing, Van Cleef, Muckla, and Overspark are the 3 existing 3-mana legendaries. Not that any of them see much play.
Higher than them.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I agree. I don't know that this card is actually all that impactful in terms of potential power, but I saw the craziest thing. Some guy, and it might have been a pro player, it might have just been somebody who's done the legend grind a few times, piloted a deck using both Idas Darkbane and Fiola Lightbane in Druid to legend with nothing to activate it. Like they were just the 3-drop slot doesn't have a lot that has that kind of stat block, and people were so scared of them that they wasted expensive removal, like executes and stuff, to take them off the board, despite the fact there was literally nothing they could do. Like there was no other card in the deck that would trigger them in any way. And I thought that was like the mind game cleverness of that blew me away and kind of opened my eyes to some new possibilities for these cards. I think they're only ever going to see play in certain classes, much the same as Justicar, but they've got power. They've got a ton of cool potential. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think that she's, of the 2 of them, the stronger, and something that could have potentially really, really meaningful impact on sort of like the anti-face, anti-zoo design with respect to how you're going to handle those things in Paladin, Priest, Druid.
Yeah.
Totally.
What do you think, John?
I love Idas Darkbane. I'm just waiting for the right deck. That's about it.
That's true. Yeah.
That's just about it for me. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So the number 1 legendary that I think you should craft, and I on this article I had several people tell me that I am incorrect, but I don't believe them. I think I'm absolutely correct, and that is Gormok the Impaler. Well, I think it's the card that not a lot of us talked about, not a lot of people talked about. I think it kind of flew under the radar, but I think it's powerful because, one, yeah, it's a 4-drop for 4/4. Yeah, you have to have 4 other minions on the board for it to take off, but if you have those 4 other minions on the board, this is probably going to win you the game, because like being able to do 4 damage and picking that 4 damage, whether it's to the face or to the minion, is huge. Being able to help clear their board or get rid of one of their threats and completely change like the tempo of the game is huge. I mean, imagine a turn where they've decimated your board or something like that, and you have some small minions, you put them out, and then you put out Gormok, and you destroy something big of theirs, and that's a huge tempo swing in your direction that's probably going to win you the game. And if you look at other cards like Implosion, Fire Elemental, Blackwing Corruptor, even Big Game Hunter, they all have that similar effect. And the reason why you see them get played so much is because they are able to remove something from your opponent's board while also giving you board control. And that's why I have Gormok the Impaler at number 1. What do you think, John? Am I crazy in having him as number one?
Oh man, I mean, so far, what happened this last week with Gormak, people would say you're crazy. At least what we saw play on stream. At least there were two or three zoo decks that we saw with Gormak, and I think it only really got to trigger once. But again, I think it's strong card, just needs to find a deck. And so I think it's as simple as that. It's really exciting. I would say though this isn't as easy as a pick, but it's still a vanilla 4/4 for 4. But I think if you're wanting to, as a player looking to craft a legendary to build a deck around, I think there are other ones that are more durable, I guess, in that, and more moldable into multiple deck types. But like this one, obvious. I mean, I think all 3 times they were tried in Zoo, Eloise had it, Forsen had it, and somebody else, I believe. And so, but overall, like I think it's bold. I would call it bold, but I don't think I could totally disagree with it by any means. Kev?
Yeah, this is tough for me because in principle, I like the card and I think it's really good. I don't think I agree that it's the number one card to craft simply because the conditions to pull it off are actually quite difficult. To have a board with 4 minions on it basically means that you're never going to be able to play this card on 4. You're going to be playing it in the late game on, like, the earliest I could see it being playable is 7, right? You're going to combo it into like Unleash the Hounds or Muster for Battle or something where you've already got an existing board. Like, you have to build an incredibly aggressive board to have value here. And it, to me, kind of screams win more a little bit. Like, if he's the 5th threat that I'm putting on the board, I already have an uncontested board of 4 minions that I've been able to create somehow. Unless that was an emergency reaction like Unleash the Hounds, that's a huge opportunity to be ahead already, and I think there's a lot of other things you would do with that 4 mana. And I mean, the fact that it's a decent body is great. The fact that it's targetable is a big deal. Like, it makes it way more attractive than something like Darkbane because you can choose where that 4 damage goes. I don't see it flying as far as how often am I going to have a board that will actually trigger it. And I would want something. We've had this conversation 1,000 times. I don't like cards that have a ton of conditions, a ton of like combo requirements. If it was just Battle Cry, deal 2 damage, I would probably play it. But with requirements to have 4 other minions on the board, that's the 5th thing you're going to put down. You're almost never actually going to be able to trigger it efficiently, and that to me makes it look like it's good, but probably a win more card fundamentally.
If I were going to put it in the top 5, I'd put it at number 5 and move everything else up 1.
See, I think in a couple months from now, we're going to be complaining about Gormok the same that we complained about Dr. Boom and being overpowered, because I believe that a lot of people didn't think that Dr. Boom was going to be as big as he was and kind of shrugged him off early on too. I think Gormok played in the right deck, played in the right situations. I think people will get him so that he consistently works and that he's going to be really, really good. And that's why I have him there.
But humor me, I guess. Describe to me a condition where you're going to have 4 minions on the board and be able to play this.
I mean, in Warlock, Zoo, Aggro Paladin, Shaman with their totems, like there's a ton of situations in those 3 decks alone that I can think of. It's just,
but if you actually had 4 minions stick on the board to the point that you could play this and not be contested, doesn't that mean you're already winning? Like, if you have a board with that much stuff on it that your opponent couldn't remove, if I'm playing Paladin against Shaman and they don't have a Lightning Storm to clear my totems that I'm going to buff with, like Thunderbluff Valiant, is Gormok actually that good? Like, you're already winning.
well, couldn't you say the same about Fire Elemental at that point? It's the same. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Fire Elemental is really good.
That's a way better body. It's damage that doesn't have any conditions. It doesn't do anything to help your opponent. I mean, I feel like Gormok begs people to overcommit into removal or sets up your opponent's unleash. Like, it seems to me like it's a trap card. Like, I don't think it's actually going to be like, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying definitely not number 1 good in terms of what people should go craft today.
I do think though that this is more like this. you're using this with tokens, right? You're not doing this when you would never play this in Druid. Be like, oh, I've got 2 Druid of the Claws up and a piloted Shredder and a Darnassus Aspirant. Now I get to play my Gormok.
Yeah, Savage Roar and win. You don't need
right. Yeah. So, but I think with Haunted Creepers in combination with Implosion, things like that, you are not ahead on board when you have 4 1/1s. Right. That's a 4/4. That's not ahead by any means. So I want to believe in your logic, JR. I really do, but I think Kevin's point does stand. I don't agree that it's a win more card, but I do believe the way it is activated is difficult, and if it can be activated clearly, then I think you'll be right. But I don't see that happening, and we haven't seen it happen yet. So let's look deeper into that crystal ball and see if you're right, I guess.
It'll be part of the super powerful Baron Rivendare Feign Death Rattle deck that guarantees you've got minions on the board.
Right. So. Yeah. All right, JR, well done on this article, though. I thought it was really interesting. It was one of my favorite reads this week. So props to you, dude. And I think that's a great resource for people looking for more information about what to craft. I would definitely recommend that to anybody who wants to take a look.
Yeah. Do we want to briefly mention the honorable mentions?
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and just do a quick glance over these guys really quick.
Yeah. So these 3 cards were kind of the ones that didn't make the top 5. When I was crafting my list, I kind of had them in there, and then they ended up not making the cut. And I'll just go over them really quick because I feel like all 3 of them kind of feel the same way. But I had the Mistcaller, Aviana, and Ronin. So I've got the Shaman Legendary, the Druid Legendary, and the Mage Legendary in there. They're all 3 class cards, so that's one of the reasons why I took them out. The other reason why is they're all they feel very centered around combos. Aviana, I mean, we've seen some ridiculous combos with her right now. She can be really fun. Ronin's the same way. There's some ridiculous amounts of combos with him. And then the Mistcaller is just one of those cards I can't tell yet if it's really, really good or not good. I haven't seen anybody play it really well yet, but I think it has potential to be really good. What do you guys think about those 3?
Go ahead, Kev.
I mean, they're good cards. I think we sort of talked about it earlier when we had our class card conversation about Varian. They all look like they could be really powerful. Mistcaller feels like it kind of doesn't synergize with a lot of the Shaman toolkit and all the spells, but does have the potential to just be game-breaking if you can get it out early. Aviana, same thing. If you can play her under any condition where you can take advantage of her stats, whether it's something silly like managing to stealth her with a spare part, or having Innervate in hand, or reducing her cost with Emperor Thaurissan, any way that you can make her playable, she's going to win games. But it's very combo-centric. And Ronin to me is the same way. I think he's a super good card that just sets up a ton of really awesome combos, but you need all these combo pieces. And right now, the deck that we don't talk about that no one likes is the only one that can efficiently find all of its combo pieces, right? So There's not a lot of combo decks out there that have been successful for exactly that reason, because for the 1 in 5 games that you win without question, the other ones aren't even coin flip even in your favor. So,
and out of all of these, Ronin loses his power. The reason why he's powerful if he gets silenced, whereas everything else is pretty much on the board.
Happens.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I will say, JR, for what it's worth, this is probably the best list you've ever done this way. I think it's probably the strongest set of cards that you've picked from any of the different sets. It's a good list. It's a really good list for people.
Cool. Thank you. I thought my original one was really good too, but my Goblins versus Gnomes one was
a little hit or miss.
A little hit or miss, yeah. Should have had Dr.
Everybody should run out and make Trogzor and Toshli.
Hey, at least I had Dr. Boom at number 2. So.
That's a pretty good call. It's a pretty good call.
Because not a lot of people, I don't think, were calling for him to be in the top.
Totally agree. Let's go ahead and jump into the meta this week. This is kind of crazy part. This isn't going to be the normal way we do it with beat 'em and join 'em and stuff like that. But we just kind of want to address a few decks on the meta that we've been seeing this last week. So let's go ahead and take a look. So Tempo Storm just came out with their meta snapshot number 27. We saw Patron Warrior at number 1 and Secrets Paladin at number 2. So the first deck we want to talk about is Secrets Paladin. Kev, I know you were a big fan of Mysterious Challengers, so you might as well get the opening talking about Secrets Paladin and how you feel about it.
I mean, I don't think I don't think it's any secret that this is probably one of the reach for your want It's probably one of the best cards they've introduced. It really flips Paladin kind of on its ear. No one has run Paladin Secrets ever in any competitive Paladin deck list. Really and truly, they just haven't. You didn't see, like, compared to all the other aggro lists, you didn't see like Mad Scientist feature in aggro Paladin to pull out an Avenge or something. Like, it just wasn't really effective the same way that it was, because the secrets are so inexpensive, that it would have been in something like Mage. The reason I think this is working really well right now is, one, nobody knows how to play around Paladin secrets. Two, they all combo really well together. You get the Noble Sacrifice that procs the Avenge until everything you have on the board the next turn gets competitive spirit. Like, they really synergize very effectively. On the whole, I don't know if this archetype will actually stick around. You already see people talking about ways to tech around it and like guides to how to play around the Paladin secrets and like which order to try to trigger them in and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's very powerful right now. But it's also very, very dependent on the way you design your deck and draw it, right? If you draw into secrets before your Mysterious Challenger, its value just decreases over time. If you have to run, like, I've seen lists for this deck archetype that run like they're an aggro paladin. They run Divine Favors and even Solemn Vigil, and then they run 10 secrets to try to just maximize the value on the Mysterious Challenger. And I'm thinking, what other deck effectively manages to take a third of your entire deck list and just throw it away? These are not playable cards that I want in my deck, but I'm just going to stick them in there to facilitate pulling off some kind of combo. Like, I don't think it's efficient or effective the way that some of the other combo-driven decks like Midrange Druid is, for example. Midrange Druid is a high, like, tight deck list that is very efficient and can win games with every card that it plays. This is not a deck that's going to stick around that way. It's a deck that's winning by the element of surprise, and a deck that has done a phenomenal job of bringing our good friend Flare back into the meta.
Hunter OP.
My favorite.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to just quickly say my favorite thing that came out of this deck was the image I saw on Reddit of they said I could become everything, so I became a Christmas tree.
Yes, I saw that. That was funny.
And it just had this paladin with all of its secrets around it, like a Christmas tree.
Right.
I've heard it referred to as Hat Paladin. I've heard it referred to as the Riddler Paladin.
Yep.
And it's cool, but I just don't think it's meant to last. I think it's people preying on misinformation and not knowing how to play around Paladin secrets right now. Plus, there's really no one doing anything to stop people from playing that card. So
right. Totally agree. Yeah, you're totally right. Another one that I wanted to talk about this week, though, was the new TGT Ramp Druid. The one that I'm talking about is the one created by Amnesia. Probably the best Druid player in the world, and he's 14 years old. Spending a lot of time with the Archon guys, too, so I wonder if we'll find out anything there. Anyways, it's a really cool deck list that I'm a big fan of. I'm going to go ahead and link it. But it's very similar. The cool difference is it's got a Living Roots in it, 2 Darnassus Aspirants, 2 Chillwind Yetis. So you run 2 Yetis, 2 Keepers, and 2 Piloted Shredders on 4. And then basically you get rid of everything above Dr. Boom and run 2 combos. So you really lower the curve quite a bit. You've got 6 2s, and you've got 8 4s, 5 5s, and 3 6s and 3 7 pluses. So, well, they're 3 7s. So I love the curve on this. Really fun to play. Really quick, though, too. So, I mean, it kind of reminds me of, like, Mid-Range Hunter and, like, the speed of the game. Very rarely are you going deep into the game and deep there. And my sleeper pick for favorite card so far, Living Roots. Much needed in Druid. So, yeah. What do you guys think about this deck?
I actually have not seen it played yet. So I I'm hoping to see it sometime on the ladder. But I was wondering if Living Roots would be really good in Druid, and sounding like it's going to be.
Kev?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay, I am actually playing a deck that's very similar to this on ladder right now. The deck that I am running right now is very close to this one. The difference is that mine foregoes the Yetis and the Living Roots to bring back some of the more classic 3-drops, right? It keeps Shades, Big Game Hunter, and I think it also runs one Sludge Belcher, which is about the only notable difference. But otherwise, it's basically the same list. And I tried playing a bunch of versions of Druid that ran Living Roots, and whether it was token or just a regular ramp Druid that used it as emergency removal or a couple of extra bodies to facilitate roar or whatever, I don't think it's really great. I really wanted Druid to get something new and cool, and I think the only thing that Druid really got out of the expansion to date in terms of what's working is Darnassus Aspirant, which I still don't really like fundamentally. I think it's kind of a problem card to play a lot of times. It's the people who are saying like this means that Druid no longer needs to run 3-drops, I think are just like fundamentally missing the point. It's a really awesome list, and I'm glad to see Druid being effective, but I like the extra sticky bodies for setting up Roar combo as opposed to, or even using Savage Combatant, honestly, as opposed to trying to force Living Roots in. And I don't know why anyone would be running Yeti. Like, I just don't follow what the logic there is, honestly, at this point. Thanks, buddy.
I could not disagree with you more, and I hate that because I don't like disagreeing with Kevin because then people yell at me. But man,
Yeah, I mean,
Living
you're
Roots
probably
is
right.
so good. Turn 1, you've got 2/1/1. Settles down aggro is great. Later on, it's just a nice little extra 2 damage. Great for if you need to sneak out a little bit extra out of the combo, things like that. Super versatile in that way. You're right. I think Yeti, as far as Yeti go, I'm like lukewarm on it.
It's a weird meta call, right? Like, it's just an odd slot.
But it's
You need
also
an
a
extra
safe.
support.
It's a safe card, right? That card's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to be bad there. We know that. I like Firebat was running Savage Combatants, and he
Yep.
kind of says on turn 4 it's the weakest 4-drop for Druid, but if you can innervate into it on like turn 2 or on turn 6, it's really strong. And so I really like that analysis, and I really found that too. But I found Yetis to be more consistent. It's just so hard to get rid of 5 health on turn 4. And when you're running 8 4-drops, like, you're going to get a 4-drop on turn 4, So, man, I love
Yeah.
this deck. I'm having so much fun with this deck. All right, done. Good. Glad we got there. So, yeah. Let's go ahead then. Let's talk a little bit about. There's one more deck I kind of want to talk about, and that was Dragon Priest. We saw Dragon Priest this last week a little bit, and kind of as our resident dragon obsession guy, JR. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit about this deck? You don't have to.
I haven't actually seen it played, but I have looked at the deck list because I am interested in kind of playing it a little bit. And I think that the biggest thing with so I can't really talk about how it's played yet because I haven't seen it played, but some of the cards in it, like, I feel like Wormrust Agent is kind of a sleeper pick in this set for Priest. It was one that I didn't really hear talked about so much, but he has a potential. He's probably really good in this deck. Basically, he's a 2-drop with the battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. So basically, he becomes a 2/4 taunt creature on turn 2. Which is really huge for Priest to have something like that. The other thing that I noticed is they're playing the Twilight Guardians, which I have seen played pretty often. And those things are for a 4-drop. If you're holding a dragon, having a 3/6 taunt on turn 4 is pretty awesome and very difficult to deal with. And that card I've been seeing a lot of play lately.
So brutal.
Yeah.
That's been my hardest card to deal with, I think, overall, at least running aggro. Twilight Guardian I've seen a lot of, even teching into, like, kind of non-dragon decks, except for, like, Ysera and things like that.
Right. So you're seeing a lot of dragon synergy in this deck because you're seeing, like, Black Ring Blackwing Corruptors. You're seeing the Twilight Whelp, the Wormrust Agent, like I said. And are they playing the other one? I don't. Twilight Whelp, and also the one that surprised me to see in this deck was Ren Blackhand.
Yeah.
That is a card that you did not hardly see at all in Blackrock Mountain, and you're starting to see it more and more with the Grand Tournament.
Yep. Savitz and Kibler have both been running Ren Blackhand in quite a few decks, actually, with just so many legendaries out in the field now.
Yeah.
Kev, what do you think about this deck?
I mean, I think it's good. There was what I thought was actually a better version of the list that somebody did and posted to the competitive Hearthstone subreddit a little while back, and it actually forgoes Rend. They tweaked it a little bit to try and just capitalize on the presence of even more taunts. So it goes back and it adds a Defender of Argus and really like amps up a little bit of extra late game removal, second Light Bomb, and a second Shadow Word Death. And I mean, I think it's a super good list. I've played a ton of Dragon Priest. It was kind of the deck that I was, before I went to this Druid list, that I actually do prefer. I was trying to make Dragon Priest work, and I mean, I wanted it to work when Blackrock Mountain came out. I think when Blackrock Mountain came out, I said, and I would have to go back to the episode and check, but I'm sure I said, like, the reason it's not going to work is because there's just no taunts. There's no taunts, and there's no way to make it survivable against any kind of aggro deck because you've got no taunt access. Now, between Wormrest Agent, Twilight Guardian, throw a Defender of Argus in there, Chillmaw, like, you can build a board of really, really sticky bodies that are hard to remove that fit into the Priest toolkit and have that low health or low damage, high health synergy for Light Bomb and stuff. It's a really awesome, well-constructed deck list. I think the biggest problem it has is just no win condition, right? It basically just tries to play to fatigue almost every game, and that's rough, right? Like, it's a rough way to play. If you don't get the draws in the right order, it can be really hard to trade with some of the more like aggressive mid-range decks. I lost a lot to combo-driven stuff like Druid, but I love it. I love that Dragon is a thing. I love that people are trying to make it work. I love seeing it. Like, when I play against it, I'm not even mad. I'm like, this is cool. It's a ton of new cards. It's a whole new archetype, and Priest was boring before, really it was. Like, there was nothing interesting about Light Bomb Priest, and before that, all Priest had was the really awful, like, Arcanine Circle removal kit, and everything played into how do I make that 4-drop my win condition. This is awesome. Dragon is so much fun.
Totally. Any last-minute comments here on the meta here, boys?
The one thing I did think was interesting, I guess, personally, is I had a couple of friends who hit Legend this week, and I've been watching a lot of people stream and just trying to get a feel on what's going on with the meta for myself, because there's no meta report, there's no way to know exactly what's happening. The biggest takeaway for me is really the meta actually hasn't changed as much as people want to believe it has. A lot of the same decks are doing the same work, a lot of the same classes have the same advantages they did before. There's a ton more snowballiness to some of the classes that didn't have that before. So Shaman, for example, right? The Thunderbluff Valiant Shaman lists. If they get their God Draw, it's a borderline unstoppable deck. And that's cool that Shaman has something like that. Ditto some of the like really, really funky sort of mid-range Paladin decks that run some of the new Paladin stuff. There's a lot of kill power, but like, I mean, JR, your mid-range hunter list, when you were talking about it, I ran a very similar list for a few days, tweaked a few things about it, and fundamentally, when I was done, I think my mid-range hunter deck might be 1 or 2 cards off of what it was in Goblins vs. Gnomes. I don't think any of these decks have really changed a ton, and I think what's happening right now is just the awesome kind of early period that we talked about where everybody goes experimental for a while. There is no established meta, people are trying random stuff, and it makes the game cool because a lot of things work that maybe won't work a month from now, right? When the meta stabilizes again and people sort of understand those matchups again, you'll see all the same things we've seen cyclically before, and you'll see some new version of Handlock come back to stomp on some version of Patron Warrior that's stomping on some version of something else, right? Like, it's the circle of Hearthstone life. And I think we're in the very brief phase that we kind of get to enjoy where those rules maybe don't apply.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot of experimentation with decks that already exist and swapping in cards. That's the reason why mid-range hunter right now in a pretty good spot is because they got a couple new toys to add to an already existing like good deck list. Patron Warrior, you're not really seeing you don't see that change at all because there wasn't really anything added to change the efficiency of that deck. But you're gonna see like priest, shaman, some of these classes that kind of struggled before in the meta start making an appearance. Maybe eventually maybe we'll see something with rogue with Kevin's favorite card in Nubric. But I don't see that happening. Instead, we're going to see Taunt Warrior eventually become one of the best decks in the game. I'm joking. We're not. I want to make it happen, but it's not going to happen.
All right, enough shenanigans, you two. Let's go ahead and get into the emails.
We've got mail.
We definitely do. We got one email we wanted to touch on this week here before we go ahead and close it up for the week. So let's go ahead and, Kev, you want to go ahead and take this email for us?
For sure, yeah. So we got an email from Chris, and he said, "Hey guys, I saw this video linked a few times, and we'll throw it in the show notes for you guys. And I was wondering what your opinion on the inconsistencies was. Is it fair gameplay to reward players who can memorize and take advantage of these types of interactions? And is this a design choice by Blizzard or just simply errors in how some of the increasingly complex rules and mechanics are being applied? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it during the podcast. Regards, Chris." So Chris, I think there's definitely some complexities to the game and some nuances, but if you understand the fundamentals, a lot of these things actually won't surprise you. I think in recent memory, there's been a couple of series, like Disguised Toast does a really great set of YouTube series and videos where he puts together some of the fun interactions out there as well. There's a whole bunch of these videos, and he posted one the other day and like asked some pro players to sort of look and see how many of these 5 different things they could guess the correct response to. And I think one of the 5 was the first thing I'd seen in a long time where I went, oh, I actually would not have predicted that would resolve the way it did. For the most part, the rules are actually pretty consistent. They feel inconsistent sometimes because there's some crazy things that can happen because the game is just getting to have a lot of cards and a lot of things you have to know. But it's nuts. Yeah, like you just have to sort of understand how those things work. So, I mean, if you watch a bunch of these different videos, you're just going to see like things that are neat, but ultimately unsurprising if you've played enough of the game.
I think in this particular video, though, that he's showing, which was put out by Disguised Toast, I think he's showing that like these are just flat out bugs in the game that Blizzard will probably, I'm sure, end up fixing. They're just interactions that made it through QA and into their live production. Like, for example, the first one is counterspelling a card counts as a discard for Tiny Knight. I mean, that's not something you should expect to happen. That's not something that obviously probably should happen. I'm sure that's unintended and probably needs to be fixed. And a lot of these lists, like I think they're just straight out things that made it through testing and into production, which happens with virtually any game in existence, any software in existence, that at some point will hopefully maybe end up being fixed, probably in a future hot fix in the next couple weeks. I'm sure we'll see a lot of these probably get fixed. But this video seems to be what it pretty much suggests here is these are mostly bugs that are not intended.
See, and I honestly don't think that's the case. I mean, so further in the video, another example they use is recombobulating cards that have had their cost reduced by Wilfred Fizzlebang. So when the cost is reduced by Wilfred Fizzlebang to 0 when you draw it, when you recombobulate it, it recombobulates to a 0 cost minion. That is what the cost of the card becomes. It's not a temporary cost reduction the way that some of the other things in the game are. So it's your cost when you play it is one number. Your cost of the physical card is a different number. And like, as insane as that sounds, that is actually, I think, intentional. Like, I know it seems really awkward, and some of them maybe might get changed because they're confusing to players, but none of them are really out of line with what you would expect if you just run through all of the logic. Because there's, like, you get people who get confused when you have to figure out the order of operations between like when does a battle cry resolve relative to a minion hitting a board, relative to a death rattle triggering, relative to like there's lots of things that go kind of haywire when there's a lot of stuff happening on the board with complex cards. But ultimately, if you stop and you sit back and learn the interactions, they all resolve the way they should. So, I mean, in those examples, there's definitely some that are weirder than others, but none that to me actually looked like they were actually incorrect.
No, there's some of them that do look like they're intended and that they're working the way they're supposed to. But I still think that counterspelling a card counts as a discard for Tiny Knight is a bug. There's another one that I saw in there that seemed like a bug as well. I didn't like. Let's see if I can find it here real quick. I just saw it a second ago. Cut Purse creates a different number of coins based on the Hunter Trap. That seems weird as well. Like
that one caught me off guard. That was the one example I was referring to earlier, where when it gets misdirected or whatever, and it hits 2 heroes, you get 2 coins, but it never actually hits the first hero, and that seemed weird to me. But
yeah.
a lot of the other ones, like what was the other one? There was a piece in the video where he complains about the fact that stealing a Koldara Drake from your opponent after you've used your hero power doesn't allow you to hero power a second time. But it's not a card that resets your hero power the way that something like Justicar Trueheart is. So, like, right. I don't think that's a bug. I think that's intended.
I think that's intended as well. We can probably go through this list and figure out what was intended and what's not. But
for another time.
Yeah, some of them are definitely intended. Some of them are definitely, I feel, bugs.
I think to Kevin's point, I think when we put a bow on this, basically, there are some that are definitely weird, but most of them are justifiable at least, so that you can actually go and like reverse that logic to do that. But we're gonna find out. I mean, if it's a bug, it'll get patched. It does, and Blizzard's really quick with those patches. So yeah. Thanks again for the email, Chris. And as always, if you want to get your email read on the show, send us an email at wellmet@blizzpro.com. But we got to get out of here. It's already been an hour and a half. I can't believe it. We went through that pretty quick. So let's go ahead and first do any shout-outs that we might have this week. Jared, let's start with you.
And like I said earlier, I'm going to Dragon Con. So if you want to, see me there, come hang out on Friday, play some Hearthstone with me. Other than that, I don't think I have really too many shout-outs. Oh, we need to mention our store.
Oh
my God.
Big news of the week. Okay, we got big news for you guys. So we've been talking about a Well-Met store for a long time. And actually in the audio version of this, I'm going to put in a little thing at the front of the show probably. It's store.blizzpro.com. We've got your Well-Met merch here, t-shirts and goodies and all that good stuff. I ordered mine already, should be coming in here, and hopefully I have it to wear on the show next week. But I hope we don't all wear it on the show next week. That might be kind of weird.
Mine won't be here. You'll be safe.
Okay, cool.
And neither will Jocelyn Moffat from The Angry Chicken, who's going to be joining us.
Yes! Big news number 2, Jocelyn Moffat from The Angry Chicken here live next week. Same great time, same great place. So please, please, please come see us because it's going to be a really awesome show, even though JR is going to be gone. So the store's out there and the shirts look awesome. So store.blizzpro.com. Thank you guys so much. We're excited. I hope you guys like the show or the shirts. So cool. Any other shout outs for you this week, JR?
No, I think that's it. Just come say hi to me at Dragon Con, and hopefully I have been not drinking as much as I probably will be.
Kev, what about you this week?
Minor things, I guess. Shout outs to my 2 friends who reached Legend this past week. So to Alcaris and Eej, congratulations, you guys. It was awesome to watch some of your games, and definitely stole your deck lists and played with them for a little bit. So congratulations once again. Also, for anybody who's interested, I've been working really hard at the grind back to rank 1 in Heroes of the Storm. That's been sort of my pet project in the gaming world lately. I'm going to get back on that again here probably in the next like a couple of hours, if not for sure the next day. So if anybody is interested in seeing me stream that, I've never streamed Heroes of the Storm, but I'd be interested to see if anybody's thinking about watching it. If you would want to see that from my perspective, let me know. If there's enough interest, I will boot up a stream and probably try to commit to a little bit of a schedule to do that on a routine basis, because I'm not streaming as much Hearthstone as I used to, and I'm not playing as much of a lot of the other games as I used to. So let me know, and if you're interested, you can find my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/OdinTV, and I will play some high-level heroes if you want to come see.
Awesome. As for me, I'm going to try to play some more. I'm trying to stream more. Now that I have my computer set up the way I want it, I'm really excited to be streaming more Hearthstone, stuff like that. So check me out over on my Twitch channel. But I don't really have any shoutouts this week, except for the Need for Seat guys were really awesome. This chair is great. So I really like it. I'm a big fan of it. And as I'm breaking it in more, I love it even more. So yeah, as for me, going to be up to the same old things this week, so nothing too exciting, and I'll shut up. So, yeah, as always, you can find us at all your favorite podcast outlets, iTunes, Stitcher, and everywhere else. Shout out to Fade to Karma, who is sponsoring the show this month, and they were awesome. And again, last chance. You literally have like 24 hours. Is tomorrow the 1st? Or is there a 31st?
31st. Yeah,
okay, you got
day.
24 hours to, if you become a Patreon at $5 or more, you're going to go ahead and do that. And as well, big thanks to Jake Butno, who does our music, and Dread Scythe, who did all of our layouts and all that kind of stuff. Before we go ahead and sign off, though, we do have some iTunes reviews, and we said that if we got 3 or more iTunes reviews, Kevin would read them in a girl voice. So go ahead, Kevin, give us the read-along.
Okay, before we do that, because we also missed them earlier, big shout out to our new patrons this week. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. So brand new supporting us this week, Matt, John D, and Grant H. Thank you guys so much. That's really awesome. We appreciate it a ton. Our next big milestone, if we get there for the show, is actually to redo all of the awesome old school host intros you might have seen on the earliest episodes of the show, as well as maybe some new intro outro content for you guys for the show, which would just be a lot of fun, allow us to support some of the voice actors and other people who have helped us get the show to where it is right now. So that would be really cool for us. I don't have a really good girl voice. I don't know why we said we were going to do this or why we think this is funny, but we do have 3 new iTunes reviews this week. So to Aiden, 81, Steve the DB, and Condarin, thank you so much. I don't know why we're doing that. Keep it together, man. We're still on. The show's still on. Come back.
Is that your?
It has been
Is that your British voice?
Oh my
British lady. I don't know what we're doing. Okay, it was a
my
blast, guys.
God.
Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're listening to this recorded or joined us live tonight, it was a great time. If you like the show, support it on Patreon. Hit us up on Twitter, or for sure, take the time to leave us one of those iTunes reviews. They matter a lot to the show. They do a lot for us as a podcast and sort of help our visibility. And what have we missed? Is that everything?
I don't know. The whole show just split open
Right there.
after
That
that. So, oh man, I don't know. I think we just got to call it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here live at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And yeah, I guess that's it. So again, thanks again so much, and we will talk to you guys next week. Stalling. There it is.
You can find John on Twitter at Kicked Tripod and on Twitch at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You can find JR on Twitter at Eldorian and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And you can find Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism and on Twitch at twitch.tv/OdinTV. BlizzPro.com. Beyond Noob.